Hi, and welcome along to a game of two halves with Mark Goldbridge joining me in the building. And Mark, how are you feeling today?
Well, Man United have won a game, so apart from having a bit of a sore throat, it's a good week for United because we can't get piled. Well, we still will get piled on because we won against 10 men, I suppose. But from a United point of view, I think it's just nice to have a week where you can sort of deflect everybody and go, "Hey, we won. We won. We're not quite in the top half of the table. We've got the same points as Man City."
Yeah, that just goes to show how early in the season things are. You know what I mean? The fact that you haven't really got off to a good start, but you're still level with Man City. So that's why some people are
I think
getting
that's the
carried away.
stupid thing. I think that's the stupid thing, Robbie, as well. We were talking about last week, this whole Amorim out movement. And I understand it. You probably get it with Arsenal, other clubs. Obviously, fans are free to make their mind up. But that's why it comes across to other people as really silly to be Amorim out now, because it's like you just had 200, nearly 300 million pounds, no, 200 million pounds spent on him. And he's actually got the same start as, some clubs that you'd go, well, you'd never sack their manager. So I'm not saying it won't happen in the future, but I think for where he is at the moment, he's okay.
Yeah, that was a big win for him. We're going to touch on that in a minute. But first of all, let's start off with a big game yesterday. I was at the game. Arsenal won. Manchester City won. City got off to a great start with a goal by Erling Haaland. Inevitably, he's on fire at the moment. Scored during the week as well. Scored for his country as well. Previous to that, 5 goals. He's really, really playing well at the moment. Looked really sharp yesterday. Got them off to an absolute flyer. Then Arsenal came up against something I didn't think I'd see from Manchester City. The low block. Pep Guardiola parked the bus, right, for literally the whole game, which must have came as a surprise to Mikel Arteta. Arteta, for me, got it all wrong at the start with his team selection, and it was a hot debate. I mean, we do a starting 11 show over on AFTV, and before the game, we were all totally baffled by the team that he'd gone with, why he hadn't gone with Eze in the starting lineup, why he'd gone with quite what we thought was quite a negative team, especially in the midfield, bringing Trossard in as well on the left-hand side, and it backfired. To his credit, he completely changed it at halftime, and it was a much better performance from Arsenal in the second half. And it was that man again, Gabriel Martinelli, going back to what you're sort of saying about criticism, heavily criticised. A lot of people saying at the start of the season, Arsenal fans, he should be sold. This is 2 games in a row now. He's come up with big clutch moments, a fantastic finish after an assist by Eze, who in my opinion should have started from the beginning. Great assist by him and a great finish by Martinelli. Still had it all to do, especially when you're dealing with a goalkeeper like as big and as imposing as Donnarumma. Chipped him and it ends up 1-1. What did you make of it?
On the goal, I think it's one of the, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but even as a non-Arsenal fan, on the goal, the margin for error on everything there is like minute. The ball from Eze is pin perfect, and then the finish is pin perfect as well. It was such a good goal, and you can't take that away from those 2 players. It was brilliant. And maybe with Martinelli, that's what his role is. Maybe it is a player off the bench, because we talk about Arsenal and squad. And, I think a lot of fans are like, oh, they're not in the starting 11, you need to sell them. As a Man United fan, over the years, we've had the people like Wes Brown, John O'Shea, Darren Fletcher, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They're very important. So maybe that's what Martinelli is, because that goal was superb. But it's interesting, Robbie, because on That's Football, I was interested to see what your take on it was. And it's very similar. We were talking about why is Eze not starting? The midfield was a little bit defensive. And also, I don't know what your thoughts were, but I think that in that game, you've got to score first. And I've noticed it with Arteta, and he did it in the second half. I didn't see a massive difference between Madueke in the first half and Saka in the second half. There's a huge difference when they're on form, but I don't see a difference when one of them is just coming back from injury. And that Saliba selection, that cost him the goal. Like, Saliba's one of the best centre-backs in the world, but he is not. He's just coming straight back into the team. He's got to go with Haaland. Yeah, he's got to go with Haaland. He doesn't... and it's an easy goal for Man City. I think Saliba's got to control that back line better. And the minute Man City score first, and then, like you say, they go park the bus, it becomes a really difficult game for Arsenal. We spoke about it being a must-win game on Friday. I think in the circumstances of points, it is very good. But I do think he could have coached the win if he'd gone for it a little bit more. I think that criticism is fair.
Yeah, no, I think the criticism is totally fair because I was criticising him before the game when I saw the team. I was like, well, if you win the game, fair play, you're gonna, but if you don't win this game now,
Yeah.
with the selection that you've made, right, I just couldn't get my head around it. And the sort of that midfield of Mikel Merino, Zubimendi, Declan Rice, it hasn't really worked. All right, it worked during the week against Athletic Bilbao, but that's away from home.
Europe as well.
At Liverpool, we ended up losing that game. What it does is Mikel Merino in particular, he's not a creative player. He's kind of like a box crashing, box to box midfielder, or he can play, as we know, as a striker. But he's not a creative player. So you saw him in the first half. He'd get the ball and he'd dwell on it too long. He'd turn, whereas you see Eze, as soon as he got into that position, straight away, forward passes, looking to hurt the opposition. And I thought Madueke was very unlucky to get taken off because he was out there in that first half. But I thought him and Saka, Eze and Saka, that sort of combination between the two of them, all of a sudden that's a big problem for Man City. You could see it. I was surprised at how defensive Man City were. I've never seen them as defensive. They were barely in Arsenal's half. But it nearly worked for them. I was laughing about it, Mark, right? Because I was remembering last year when we went to Man City and we was winning 2-1 and it went down to 10 men at half time. Trossard stupidly got himself sent off, right? And Arsenal went ultra defensive to try and hold on to that win and got heavily criticised.
Yeah.
And then I'm watching City. I'm like, he's 1-0 after about, I don't know, it was very early in the game. And literally the rest of the game, they just went completely defensive. And I don't know if you've seen this as well, but I was going to ask you this, Mark. With a lot of, I've seen it with City, Arsenal, Liverpool, right? How many long balls these teams are playing now? How many times they're taking long throws? Donnarumma yesterday, Arsenal yesterday took a load of long throws. Donnarumma yesterday, I can't remember him playing the ball out from the back once. Are we seeing a big change in style with a lot of these teams now where they're going way more direct?
Well, I watch a lot of the Bundesliga, obviously, because we've got the game on a Friday night, and the volume of goals in that game is in those games compared to the Premier League is incredible. I mean, we had two. I don't know how many 0-0s we had at the weekend, but there was a few again where it was 0-0 at half time. I'm watching the kickoff in Premier League games. Man United did it in the second half against Chelsea. It's like I'm watching rugby. They're all on the far side of the pitch.
They're kicking for touch.
That's a new thing as well. So
yeah,
it's almost like people have become I think you're right. It's a good observation. I think people are becoming a bit obsessed with
territory,
percentage ball. But what I would say is I think for there's two takeaways for me yesterday. First of all, I think for Arsenal, you're 5 points off Liverpool. Is that a concern at this stage of the season? And second of all, the way Man City played against Arsenal, I know it's not a win, but you didn't lose. And you can look at that and go, there's definitely been a shift. That is not a Man City side that thinks it's winning titles if it's doing that at Arsenal. Unfortunately, Liverpool are still in the room, but I don't see Man City as a threat to Arsenal. I think Arsenal had a bit of a bad day. But you're right. How many corners did Arsenal have yesterday? 11. And they never looked like scoring them because Man City are good in the air. Got a massive keeper. I felt I wanted a little bit more from Arsenal, and we got it right at the end. I mean, that was just you're not playing into Yoka as a strength. I'm sure he'll get a load of criticism, but that's not playing into his strength doing that. No. What Eze did is playing into his strength. Yeah,
he's got to take the handbrake off Arteta. He's going to get heavily criticised for it, and I think deservedly so. This has been the one at Liverpool. I was like, well, right, it's away at Anfield, but you're at home, and as I said, a lot of people criticising before the game for the lineup. So if it don't work, expect it, and he's definitely going to get it, and I think deserves it. Even though he made the changes at half time. Big win
next
for
week against Newcastle, mate. Just before we go, Newcastle away next week becomes massive, doesn't it?
Big test, and I think Mikel Arteta needs what he hasn't had so far this season. Even though it's not a terrible start, but he hasn't had that sort of statement win. I think he needs that at Newcastle next week to really sort of, because after that, he then has a real favourable run of games. He has had a hard start to the season, but try and go and get a statement win at Newcastle, and it would be because that's a tough place to go to. Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1. Big win for Manchester United. First of all, I don't know what Robert Sanchez is doing, getting himself stupidly set. I mean, it was poor defending, but why? Oh, why did he do what he did? And do you know what, Mark? I've said this earlier on in the season. Some Chelsea fans had a go at me. I said, listen, you've got a great side, but that defense and the goalkeeper is not going to win you the league. I don't care if you won the Club World Cup. That's a knockout competition. Week in, week out, football's different. And he's got too many mistakes in him. Sometimes you see him, he makes great saves. You'll see him another week go and do a madness like what he did there. That really cost Chelsea any hope of winning the game. And after that, United turned it on. Went in front, but then still, Casemiro, what was he doing when you're on a yellow card? Evens it up. They got one back, but United always looked like they were going to see it home, and they did. Huge win.
I think you could write a book on that game. It was just incredible. The weather as well had a part to play. I mean, just to start on Chelsea very quickly, because I don't have much to say about them other than what you've said. I think that we've all seen them spend, what, £2 billion? To not spend it on a top-class striker and a top-class goalkeeper is criminal to me. I know Pedro looks quite good, but I still think so much money spent. And to not get a goalkeeper, you've nailed it. Like, he's inconsistent. Just because he has one good game, Chelsea fans go, yeah, but that red card kills that game. As a Man United fan, 11 against 11, you might win that game. But what Maresca does afterwards, I was like rubbing my hands. I mean, Cole Palmer went off injured, but he also took off Neto and Esteban. It was almost like, I don't know what he was doing. And then we scored, and then he had to bring another forward on. He messed up as well. He maybe lost his head a little bit. But you've got to take advantage when you go down, when a team goes down to 10 men in the first 5 minutes. We did that. It was borderline onside for Bruno, but obviously the technology's there. Their other keeper comes on and makes an absolute clanger on the second goal. You're 2-0 up against 10 men, bad weather. You need to win the game. Casemiro gets booked. Everybody on our watch along was saying take him off. Amorim keeps him on. And then it becomes squeaky bum time. But we had the same thing as you. A lot of United fans didn't like the lineup. And the simple reason was Bayinda in goal again, Bruno in the midfield again, Casemiro in the midfield, Maguire and Shaw. It just felt very what a manager does when they're in trouble. You know, a little bit, let's throw as many experienced players in as we can. But in credit to Amorim, as much as I didn't like the team, he had to win that game. And so many people have been saying when we played Arsenal, we had played well, but you lost. It's a results game. And then I see the Chelsea game and I'm like, well, they were very lucky, but we won. And I think the next 2 games for United, Brentford away on Saturday and then Sunderland, he's got to win them. And if he wins them, the league will look good. You've won 3 in a row. He's never done that. And it stabilises. And I think United have just got to go game to game. I think anybody saying we're back or he's still going to get the sack, I think the logical thing is we've just played against 10 men. That game was ridiculous. I don't think you can learn anything tactically. You take the win, you move on. And I think Chelsea will take the loss and go, we can't learn anything from that either. It was chaos, you know?
The one thing you do learn from it from Manchester United is that there's a bit of fight in the team. You know what I mean? I think they showed a lot of fight. Like you said, the conditions were terrible. Yeah. Right. And when it did get back to 2-1, and you remember it's even on players, you know, the 10-men thing don't really count no more, does it? So they dug in, they showed a lot of fight and they saw it out. And, you know, it's a big scalp. Chelsea's a big scalp. Well, it doesn't matter whether they go down to 10 men or not. It was
equal in the second half, wasn't it? It was 10 against 10. Yeah. And I definitely, you know, I've done watch-alongs enough to know when the memes are coming and everything like that. And I was like, this is going to be 2-2. You know, I've seen so many late goals. We saw Arsenal yesterday. Liverpool have done it. I'm like, there's definitely going to be a goal for Chelsea. So, yeah, to their credit, I thought Cunha came on, and I think Mbeumo and Cunha for me are the 2 bright sparks. Mbeumo's been really good. Cunha comes on. He's running against their defence. He can pass it out wide to Ahmad, and he sees a Chelsea player behind him and just takes the foul. And there's a minute to go, and you just go, that's what top players do. They just kill the game.
Yep. Liverpool 2, Everton 1. They're the big winners of the weekend. Liverpool winning the Merseyside derby. Predictable, really, because they always win the Merseyside derby. But it was, first half, Liverpool, brilliant. Second half, though, Everton really gave it. So could have nicked a draw in that game. Again, Liverpool still looking a little vulnerable. Now, if you're a Liverpool fan, you're saying, well, listen, the best is yet to come and we've won all 5 games. Or should they be a little bit concerned that, you know, but listen, it's a perfect start for them and they're the big winners of the weekend. 5 points clear already at the top of the table.
It's a long time ago since our clubs have won titles, but we're never not going to sit here and say critical of winning your first 5 in a row, and no matter how you do it, it's a 38 game season. You can't play well every week. But look, Palace next week. Somebody was telling me that Palace have not been beaten in quite a lot of games. So I'm looking at that at Selhurst Park, and I'm thinking, if Liverpool are going to drop points, and we do need them to drop points, maybe that's going to happen next week. I think with Everton, they gave it a good go. I like the fact that Grealish is there. I think he gives them something that's a little bit more entertaining. I don't like watching Everton over the last few years, but they were quite. They lack a cutting edge. I don't rate Beto, but Tarkowski's a very honest player. Idris Gueye works really hard. They're a good working team. They've got a bit of flair now, but they just didn't. We've seen Liverpool give up leads a lot lately, but I just never felt Everton had it in them. But I do think Liverpool were there for the taking again. They started well, and that equaliser was there, but unfortunately, I don't think Everton had it, and Liverpool's defence was quite comfortable. But they gave it a good go. But as you say, I expected Liverpool to get over the line, and they did.
Yeah, Liverpool, they're, as I said, they ain't been perfect yet, but they're perfect because they're top of the league, 5, won every single game. And listen, it's a derby game, so derby games are never easy. But they got that job done. Brighton 2, Tottenham 2. Brighton threw away a 2-0 lead. Were looking pretty comfortable at one stage. But the thing is, when you're 2-0 up, it's always vital to go in at half time and keep that lead. They gave up a goal just before half time, and again. Tottenham coming back at the end. I'm not sure. I'm sure I had this as a draw.
You did.
Yeah, and remember I said to you,
you got Friday, a few right this week, Jammy. No, it was good. Sunderland as well.
I said to you on Friday on your channel that the problem with Brighton is they can't defend. That Van Hecker as well. He's like, you watch him 1 week, you think, hey, this guy's got something about him. The next week he makes that error. He's like a Robert Sanchez of defending, that guy. And again, another big error by him. But Tottenham, good fight back for them, and a decent point in the end.
You know me, I've said it we've been doing this for nearly a year now. I've never been a fan of the Brighton manager. I know that's harsh, but I
do always say that, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of him, and I think when you think about Spurs in the Champions League, that is 2-0 up against a team that's played midweek and you haven't. That's got to be a win. And I'm not surprised that Tottenham got back in. And I think it's a very good point for them from that position. But yeah, I mean, look, Belaber's not playing very well at Brighton. They're the most inconsistent team in the Premier League. You never know what you're going to get. They may as well be Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You just don't know. So, I mean, good result for Spurs, but I'd be disappointed if I was Brighton there. All the ingredients were there to win that game, and, they've dropped points, I think. Yeah,
like you said, a lot of draws at the weekend. Burnley won, Forest won. Forest were 1-0 up, Big Ange, but Burnley came back and 1-1.
Promoted teams are doing well, aren't they, really?
Sorry?
Promoted teams are doing,
yeah, they are doing, pretty decently at the moment. So yeah, you got to say that. It was also a draw between Bournemouth and Sunderland. Sorry, Bournemouth and Newcastle. And Sunderland.
That was a good point for Newcastle,
Yep. Tough place to go to. And Sunderland drew 1-1 with Aston Villa. Villa, playing against 10 men, Sunderland, and letting that slip at the end. Is Unai Emery now starting to come under pressure? Because there's still no wins for him this season. They got their first goal at least. But again, 10 men Sunderland were down to. And I'm not sure what you made of that sending off in that game. I don't know about that. To me, it's just a player just saw and get off me.
Yeah.
And is that a red card? I mean, I thought that was so harsh.
I saw a couple of tackles over the weekend that I thought were worse than that. I thought Cucurella's on Mazraoui, I think it was off the ground, and obviously the weather makes it look worse. But I think that's one of the ones where the slow-mo again makes it look like he's assaulted him by kicking him in the nuts. But in real time, it's more just get off me. It's a bit of a push.
Get off me, what I mean? And then well, is that a red card? I mean, I thought that was so harsh. But
no, I think with Villa, with Emery, just quickly, Robbie, sorry. I think Europa League gets you Champions League, doesn't it? And I think that's maybe psychologically they've gone into a season looking at that, but you can't be in the bottom 3 in the Premier League. So it is interesting that they've got to start getting results. And Ollie Watkins had a great chance at the end and he missed it. They're just not on it, are they?
No, they're not on it. Massive win for Fulham. They came from 1-0 down to beat Brentford. A very good performance by them. Big win for them. Massive win for Leeds away from home at Wolves. This was a bad defeat for Wolves. They were winning 1-0 and Leeds 3-1 winners. Calvert-Lewin with his first goal there. and the manager that's under the most pressure. And we may not see this guy by the end of the week. Graham Potter losing at home to Crystal Palace. Is that the end of Potter? Is he going to disappear like what Harry Potter used to do? I mean, come on. I mean, they are terrible, West Ham, at the moment.
Well, they are the leaky cauldron, aren't they? You know, they're leaking a lot of goals. Another Harry Potter reference there. But he's, I think, you know, like with Amorim and Emery, you don't feel like they're near the door. But Potter, I feel like it's inevitable. And I think a West Ham fan would know he's going to go at some point. They're losing the wrong type of games. I think he's, you know, was he backed in the summer? Probably not. And where they go next as well. I mean, I said it at the time, they've got every right to get rid of David Moyes, but he would always keep you around the mid-table, maybe eighth every now and again. They wanted better football. It's not better football, is it? I just don't know where they go next. I felt that Mourinho would have been a good shout for them, and he's gone to Benfica. So I mean, there'll always be a coach out there, but maybe they'll go Sean Dyche or something. But then you go back to what Moyes was.
I heard them talking in the week, Slaven Bilic. I was like, come on. I mean, no wonder I mean, there were big protests before the game as well. They could go down. I mean, looking at the bottom three, time to start looking at that now, week in, week out, because we have had 5 games. Bottom 3, Wolves rock bottom, no wins yet this season. West Ham second from bottom, 1 win against Forest. And with 3 points, Aston Villa on 3 points as well in the bottom 3. Not a great start for them. And the top, of course, Liverpool on top, maximum points 15. Arsenal in second on 10, followed by Tottenham on 10, Bournemouth on 10, Palace in 5th place on 9 points now. So that's how the tables are looking at the moment. But Potter under some serious pressure, and I don't think he's going to last. I'll be surprised if he lasts in the next game.
Everton
he's going to come
away.
under it.
Everton
is that the next? Oh,
yeah. You just can't find a win, can you? It's like Wolves go to Spurs. I mean, apparently they gave this Wolves coach a 3-year contract last week.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? You give him a 3-week one, you know?
Right, let's get into our team of the week. Very difficult this week because there's loads of draws. I've gone for Darlow in goal at Leeds, just because of the magnitude of that win. He had to pull off a lot of good saves as well. So Carl Darlow at Leeds, I thought he had a good game.
I'm going to put my hands up and say, because I've been a bit ill, I haven't done it. So I have 1 or 2 that I would argue on, but I'm going to bow down to. I have to bow down to Robbie every week anyway. I think after last week when he said it's his show, I just don't bother anymore. So yeah, whatever. I should have just said that. No, but I wasn't. I didn't really grab beyond the games I watched because I was just like trying to rest.
Right, listen, I'm going to give him an excuse for him because he has been ill all weekend, right? And it's fair play to him for being here today, right? This is what makes him so good. He's consistent, people, right? So I'm going to run through my team and he can give me his objections, right? So my back 4, I actually went for one of your guys, Dorgu. I thought he had a really good game, especially in those conditions.
I liked that performance, but some United fans said he was bad, but I thought, I thought he played well. I think he's a young lad. He's not perfect, is he?
No, he's not perfect, but I think he's one of those ones where you've got to dig in, especially in those conditions. And I thought he was decent. Mitchell scored a great goal for Palace, played really well in the game. Big win for them. Van Dijk seems to be in there every week, solid as a rock. And Mark Gay as well of Palace, who I thought also was solid in that away performance win in a derby.
I don't know what Liverpool would. I was saying this yesterday. If Haaland got injured for Man City, I think they'd be in trouble. But I think if anything happens to Van Dijk at Liverpool, I'd be worried about that as well. Very, those long balls into the box, he just eats them up, doesn't he?
Huge player for them. Midfield, I've gone Iwobi, had a great game for Fulham. Bruno Fernandes, who I thought, it was the driving force for Manchester United. A real sort of leader's performance, I felt, in that game. And Gravenberch, what a goal by him. What a player this guy is.
I think he's on a fast track to being world class. I do. I think it's
he's quality.
His growth and he's just getting better and better and better. I mean, we had someone was doing a poll yesterday, Caicedo or Gravenberch, and he got like 75%. I thought, Caicedo's a good midfielder, and if people see him as above him by that much, just shows you how respected he is in the Premier League. It's not easy to be respected beyond your club, and I think massive player. And
very good player. And then up front, I've gone Ekitike. Again, another goal from him. I mean, they've gone out and spent all this money on Isak, but this guy is performing every time he's on the pitch. Gabriel Martinelli, I know he weren't on long, but what an impact! What to ensure that Arsenal got the points for that great goal. That was a clutch moment. And Calvert-Lewin, Leeds. You know, he hasn't scored for ages, but that goal that he scored to get him back in the game, that was absolutely massive. And to me, just for that, I'm getting him in there as a striker. You know, a big moment for him.
The only thing I'd say is you could put Haaland in there for the same reason you put Van Dijk.
Yeah.
I think it was he worked ridiculously hard, which I think is why he got subbed off. I thought the goal was easy, but you know, it just looked ridiculously powerful. You know, a lot of people were going, "What a goal!"
So
because
quick.
It looked so powerful. But I do think there was an element of mistake by Arsenal. So give it Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah. So that's our team of the week. Let us know if there's players that you feel we should have got into there. You guys are always reminding us of players that you felt should have been in the team. But that's our team of the week. Mark, thanks very much for today. Listen, you better go and get some rest, mate.
Lemon sip FC for me this week, I think.
Honey and lemon, man. That's
Yeah.
what my mum used to prescribe, right? Some hot honey, lemon, right? Drink some of that. Maybe put a little white rum in it. Is what we do in Jamaica. Yeah, and then you just sweat that all out, man. And by Wednesday, you're good to go. Trust me on this. Old Jamaican remedy.
There we go. If you're under 18, don't do it. If you are over 18, cheers.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe here to DR Sports. We'll be back next week with another show. And we're back on Mark's channel on Friday.